Welcome back. I'm Erica Fernandez, and I'm joined here this morning by Stephanie Gandulla from the Marine Sanctuary. Stephanie, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Erica.
So every time you come, we either talk about shipwrecks or archaeologists, a little bit of both sometimes. But tell me, what exactly is it that archaeologists do?
I'm glad you asked that question, Erica, because there is a little bit of confusion about what archaeologists really do.
Okay.
In fact, a recent study by the American Institute of Archaeology found that 85% of adults think that archaeologists study dinosaurs.
Oh.
But you know that we do not study dinosaurs.
No.
We do like them. But, and I do think that our community here, Alpena and Northeast Michigan, is definitely above average because of the Marine Sanctuary and our special archaeological resources here.
Right.
So we know what archaeologists do, and what they do is they study artifacts. So
Okay.
we study things that humans have made throughout history.
Okay.
And what we focus on here is the study of shipwrecks.
Right, and so from those shipwrecks, I mean, do you guys have any artifacts that you have and you study yourselves?
Absolutely. In fact, I've brought a couple of artifacts,
Okay.
and I'd like to ask you to please put on these gloves,
Okay.
because we do have to be careful in handling the artifacts.
Okay.
The Marine Sanctuary is a repository for the state of Michigan's maritime and underwater resources. There's also a repository in Lansing, but we at the Heritage Center on Fletcher Street have thousands of artifacts.
Okay.
And I brought a couple here, and of course these are irreplaceable historic treasures, really.
Right.
Here we have a faucet, it's pretty clear what this is, from the shipwreck Pewabic, a very famous shipwreck, tragic story. And then we have a porthole. This is clearly from a shipwreck, I think pretty iconic feature of a ship here, a porthole from the shipwreck Grecian.
Okay.
Now, these shipwrecks are some of the most popular dive sites in the Great Lakes, but they're also irreplaceable historic treasures.
Right.
The story of the Pewabic, I think we've talked about before. A tragic story, is a passenger steamer that was also carrying a load of copper and iron ore that went down tragically in August of 1865. Many lives were lost with that shipwreck. The Grecian, however, this lovely brass porthole came from that. This was a ship that was lost, a big steel freighter, and I believe we've got the footage rolling of what it looks like underwater.
Right.
Big steel freighter that sprung a leak in 1906. In fact, it was June of 1906.
Wow.
They started towing it south for repairs, towing it from St. Mary's River down to Detroit. Had to pass by Thunder Bay, where the leak continued, and it ended up just sinking right there.
Right.
And both of these are very popular dive sites.
Yeah, that's incredible. So when you find artifacts, what exactly do archaeologists do with them? Like, how do they handle them? Are they allowed to touch them?
That's a great question. So a lot of the artifacts that we have at the center we got these artifacts from people bringing them in after salvaging them either legally or illegally. Okay. And we have a great policy there, no questions asked, and so people are allowed to bring in the artifacts, so we get them that way. They also have been salvaged by archaeologists, brought up to study further. But just before I talk a little bit more about how we deal with artifacts, the philosophy that we have today is to leave the artifacts down there, leave the shipwrecks where they have been preserved for hundreds of years very well. It's much better for them to leave them down there in the cold, fresh water. But the way we handle them here in freshwater, it's much easier than the archaeologists who have to deal with artifacts in salt water.
Oh, okay.
If you've got salt that's going to corrode metal, I mean, if these were found in salt water, they would be full of corroded material around them. In fact, you might not even be able to identify what this was.
Okay.
But here in the cold fresh water, we're able to deploy some pretty simple techniques to clean off the artifacts and then maintain them in a lab setting at the Heritage Center.
So we're really lucky here that you can actually see what they are and preserve them.
Absolutely.
So what if I'm walking along the beach and I actually find an artifact? What do I do with it?
That's a great question, and it's Michigan state law to leave these artifacts that you find on bottomlands or beached areas undisturbed. And so the best thing to do is to call Michigan DNR, Department of Natural Resources, and they even have a shipwreck artifact hotline that you can call and report where you have found them. So pretty much leave it alone.
Okay.
It's very important for archaeologists to know the exact location where these artifacts were found, because that helps tell the story.
Okay, so just really quickly, where can someone find more artifacts if they're interested in learning about more?
Well, we have thousands on display at the Heritage Center. Of course, that's free and open to the public 7 days a week.
Okay.
In fact, this Saturday is International Archaeology Day.
Oh, perfect.
If you'd like to come and check out the artifacts, and we have the stories alongside the artifacts. So lots of ways to come and see these historic treasures that tell a bit of our Michigan history.
All right, well, perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for bringing all these artifacts. It's really incredible to see them.
Thanks, Erica.